This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. The 2025 Met Gala just took place, and as most of you know, I've covered the Met Gala every single year since I started covering these topics on the internet. And it didn't disappoint, as it never disappoints for those of us with eyes to see and ears to hear. Some people out there need to see these people flat out doing human sacrifices on the red carpet for them to actually think that it's some type of a ritual. But I will show you that, although more subtle than other years, that this was a massive Freemasonic ritual that took place, because that's what the Met Gala is. It's a ritual. And the only people who were invited are a part of the club. But as you'll see in some of these photos, the people in the club are getting more and more like the Riddler. In other words, a mystery, because you can't identify these people who claim to be celebrities in the year 2025. In fact, I'd take screenshots with their names on the pictures so that I could actually remember who these people were, because I've never seen so many quote unquote celebrities who are almost completely unidentifiable. And as I've said in the past, I'll say it again. If there was ever a time that we could use the Unabomber, it's at the Met Gala, especially ones like this one in the year 2025. So is it too soon for any Unabomber jokes? I apologize. But let's get into this. And again, as you probably have seen in the past, I've covered these things. We've seen things that have been outright obvious, like Nicki Minaj dressed as the harlot, the mother of Babylon with the Pope, or Jared Leto. You know, my buddy Jared Leto, who has donned all sorts of satanic costumes at the event, even mocking Jesus Christ, wearing a crown and pretending to be or portray himself as Jesus Christ in the past at the Met Gala. But much to my surprise, Jared Leto didn't get an invite this year. I guess Jared wasn't invited because, well, just go see some of Jared's latest performances like Gucci or his Joker movie, which really, Jared Leto has lost a lot of his Hollywood luster, which means that his social influence isn't as strong as it once was. And that's all that this is about. These people are not talented. These people are not better than you. These people have not worked to achieve some type of greatness in our society. These people have made the ultimate sacrifice to become famous, and they want and live for you to worship at the feet, or should I say the reptilian scales that they walk with. So we can start off with the obvious. The theme of this year's Met Gala was very, very clear. It was Freemasonry right in your face, because every single person, for the most part, I went through the photos of all of the attendees, because some of the lowly news media outlets like People Magazine gave you every single photo of every celebrity so you didn't miss out. And pretty much I would say 95% are wearing black and white symbolism, right? And of course, that goes back to Freemasonry, the duality of life, which represents both good and evil, light and darkness. We see every Freemasonic lodge with black and white checkerboard floors. That is done deliberately. We see them, of course, even openly in a lot of these Masonic lodges, have that pyramid that we all know so much that's on the back of the dollar bill. You know, that pyramid that often gets dismissed as being a conspiracy, even though on the back of the dollar bill you have a pyramid with the all-seeing eye on it, and you'll see all types of symbolism on this red carpet. So we'll start with just the obvious. Everybody's in a black and white outfit. You get people like Dwayne Wade, who, of course, you say, why would Dwayne Wade, some washed-up, has-been basketball player, been there? Well, Dwayne Wade, obviously, as some people out there should know, Dwayne Wade's child transitioned. And if your child transitions and you make that sacrifice, which is literally equivalent to sacrificing your own child on an altar, well, of course you'll get invited. And that's exactly what Dwayne did. We see some of these celebrities that nobody's ever heard of. It's literally a who's who of nobodies, but you get people like Genie, who, in the black and white. You get this guy who's wearing the checkerboard outfit openly. We get some of our old familiar faces popping back up, like Nicki Minaj, or is this Nicki Minaj's alter, Roman, showing up? You get Lizzo on the red carpet. Monica Barbaro, no clue, but you see the theme here where they're all wearing black and white, duality. Their good deeds outweigh their bad deeds. This has everything to do with the Baphomet, as above, so below. That's what the checkerboard floor represents. Hunter Schafer. Who? No clue. Another celebrity here, black and white. And I could have gone on and on and on. Even this actor showing up here who's wearing a skirt, which is, of course, one of the common themes at the Met Gala. The males dress as women a lot of the times. The women dress as men. The men will wear skirts and high heels. And the more that time evolves and goes by, the more people just accept this in our society as normal. Nobody's gasping at it anymore. You get this person, is it Dochi? Not really sure, but you can see the obvious black and white checkerboard symbolism on the outfit, the skirt, including even the purse. And of course, I can't identify what gender is what at the Met Gala, but we all could assume, just believe the opposite of what you're told. We even get a Jonas brother showing up at the Met Gala. Remember the Jonas brothers playing the role of Christians in society? They wanted your kids raised in the Jonas brothers because, well, the parents just couldn't get their kids away from the music and the media. And they said, well, it's better than letting them listen to Marilyn Manson, right? But, of course, it's the same thing because they're all in the same club. There's a picture of the Jonas Brothers together. You could see one of the Jonas Brothers wearing Aleister Crowley right on his shirt. You know, the same Aleister Crowley who talks about human sacrifice, specifically those of young boys with blonde hair and blue eyes being the most significant of use in these rituals for the strongest magic to be generated. So we got other people, including Kamala Harris, showing up at the party here wearing the black and white Masonic outfit. Then we go all the way down the line and we get Whoopi Goldberg, right? And of course, you might remember Whoopi Goldberg openly on the television show The View that Whoopi Goldberg now hosts was even so blatantly obvious, wore a Prince Hall Freemason sweatshirt on an episode, and then was called out by everybody out there as being in the club and being a Freemason, right? And of course had to say, I got it at a thrift shop. Oh, you got it at a thrift shop. Aren't there costume designers there? Wardrobe people? You know when the credits roll on these shows, and they put wardrobe and all that? So that pretty much means that you're not wearing clothes that you pick up off the street. So somebody obviously knew, and this was approved and checked beforehand. Of course, this is them expecting you not to notice, just like in the Met Gala. They don't expect you to notice things like the color symbolism. Or how about Whoopi Goldberg wearing that top hat? For those of you that don't know, in Freemasonry, the top hat is worn by the worshipful master, and it signifies his authority and commands respect within the lodge. This is a tradition in Freemasonry that goes back to the 1700s, where we see these Freemasons always wearing these top hats on their heads, right? And of course, it's been made probably most famous for females, or supposed females, wearing the top hat. This goes back to Madonna. You may remember the ritual they did at the MTV Video Music Awards, where Madonna ascended down the Masonic staircase, dressed in the top hat, and then made out with Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera. And of course, Madonna was even there, holding a cigar, dressing subtly, but probably because Madonna's on life support at this point. So then we had other people there, Jodie Turner-Smith, no clue, wearing that Masonic top hat. You can even see how deliberate they are. They think that we don't notice, where they tilt their hat and they have it perfectly placed because they have these things, tied into the top of their heads so that it could display the all-seeing eye symbolism. You get somebody else here, another clown at the circus, wearing the Masonic top hat. You even go all the way down and you get somebody named Taraji Henson. That's right, Taraji Henson. Probably couldn't name one thing that Taraji is in, but Taraji is at the award shows. You might notice, in addition to the top hat, that Taraji is holding a cane. Well, that's another Freemasonic symbol. And no, I don't mean if you have a bad back and you have a cane at home and you walk around with a cane that you're a Freemason. Relax. Take a deep breath. This isn't about you. This is about exposing the signs and the symbols. And this is a perfect example, right? Because all these people there are wearing black and white. They're wearing their hats, their top hats, and they're all walking around with canes, as you'll see right now. And I'm pretty sure that most of these celebrities don't have upper back problems. I'm pretty sure that there's obvious symbolism to it. And of course, the symbolism is Tubal Cain. In Freemasonry, Tubal Cain is often associated with a cane with two balls. And yes, that sounds very perverted, doesn't it? Well, if you actually understand the occult, the majority of the symbols that they use are or have something to do with phallus worship, which goes back to Baal. That's why you see the obelisks assembled all around the earth. And nobody ever says, what is the point of this obelisk? Well, it represents Baal's shaft. They have an obsession with phallus and phallus worship. So the cane represents Tubal Cain. Get it? Tubal and Cain. The symbol represents craftsmanship, knowledge, and skill. The cane itself signifies guidance, support, and the measured steps taken in one's journey through Freemasonry. And if you're not familiar, Tubal Cain is a descendant of Cain, as in the son of Adam and Eve, as in Cain and Abel. And of course, we know the people in the Bible that they love and worship are all the ones who go against God. They honor people like Cain in the Bible. They honor, obviously, and worship Lucifer, right, who defied God. So that is the significance of the cane. And you could even see Cain's cane and the Freemasons. And then you just go through the list of some of these people who are supposedly celebrities. And again, I mean, I don't know. I'm starting to feel like maybe my pizza delivery guy is a little bit more famous than some of these guys. Babyface, right? I mean, are they letting anybody in at this point? At these galas that they have? Aman Hamam, no clue. Couldn't identify out of a lineup. If you told me to pick Hamam, I couldn't identify this person. Couldn't tell you what they even are famous for. But then we get Simone Biles there. You might say, what? Why does that sound? No, like I've heard that name before, right? Biles, right? Well, yeah, Biles for some reason. This might get to, make you project bile, But no, Simone Biles, you can see the hair over the eye doing the all-seeing eye symbolism with its husband or wife, whatever we have here. We can't tell who's what anymore, so we got to believe the opposite. Of course, he's got a cane, too. You might say, well, what's Simone Biles doing there? Well, Simone Biles is in the Olympics, so I guess that gets you a card-carrying membership to the Met Gala. And what is Simone most known for? Well, being the goat, right? Simone is one of the people that has normalized the goat symbolism and the Baphomet worship, constantly holding up that goat symbol, wearing the goat, the Baphomet, on its outfits during these Olympic events that have millions and millions of eyeballs on it. So, of course, Simone was invited to the gala. Then we get some guys here. Noah Lyles, no clue. There he is with a cane. He's got his black and white colors on. Central C, right out of Central Casting. Unless you're telling me that this person's a celebrity. Could not tell you, but he's got a cane, right? Because they all knew what the theme was. Make sure you bring your cane. Don't forget Usher. Don't forget Usher's in the house, right? Covered Usher many times over. Of course, being a Freemason, doing all the Illuminati signs and symbols, even his ritual at the Super Bowl a few years back. And then we even get some of the most obvious symbolism you could possibly imagine. Here's somebody named Alton Mason. Alton Mason. So if that wasn't obvious, and if here's Alton, he's decided that, I don't know, he's apparently wearing a curtain rod on his shoulders, but he's got an all-seeing eye patch. Big fan of Pirates of the Caribbean, are we? Nobody said, hey, the theme, I guess he didn't get his memo about Freemasonry. He said, well, I do have the memo. I'm wearing my black and white stuff, but I'm going to wear an eye patch because nobody's going to notice, and nobody knows or notices or has a clue who Alton Mason is, but he's oiled up and has his chest out. I mean, these are the men that we're dealing with in the year 2025. You're telling me that there couldn't be some type of revolution when these are the people responsible for the chaos going on in the world? I mean, intimidated by Alton Mason? I mean, maybe if you were tied down in an alley somewhere, you might be intimidated if, this guy could get access to your pants. But other than that, I mean, who's really going to be intimidated by any of these people? Here's another one. No clue who this is, but there's an eye patch for you. So did they get in touch with one another and say, hey, you're wearing an eye patch? I was going to wear an eye patch. Maybe we shouldn't wear eye patches because, might be a little bit obvious, or, it doesn't make any sense, right? Madonna, all these people always wearing the eye patch. Of course, this is referencing the all-seeing eye, the one-eye symbolism. Even had people on the red carpet who were strategically posing, like I showed you earlier, holding the hat over one of their eyes, doing the one-eye symbolism, like the person I showed you earlier who had the hat literally glued down so they could do the one-eye symbolism. And then we get just really obvious all-seeing eye symbolism from Lauryn Hill. There's Lauryn Hill. Everyone's saying, cheese, can we take a picture? And Lauryn Hill decides to, hold up the all-seeing eye symbols. And we've seen this in the past. Many of these celebrities think that they're cute and quirky. They hold cameras up over their eyes and they walk around at the Met Gala as if none of us actually notice. But we all at least on this channel, have eyes to see and ears to hear. You might also notice the outfit. This is something that often gets overlooked, but did you notice that big collar around Lauryn Hill's neck there? That's Saturn, okay? And that's why Demi Moore, even in the black and white symbolism as well, has this huge hoof thing, this huge ring over its head, okay? These people aren't doing this because they think that it looks good. Obviously, it looks, well, what's the word we would use? Retarded. But they do this because these are the signs and symbols they use in front of us and get away with, right? We've seen Beyonce do this. This is the Saturn worship. It's Saturn's ring. That's why they often have their collars or have these contraptions around their heads. Then we move on to Precious Lee. Because if you take a look at Precious Lee, who you probably have never heard of either, well, Precious Lee has that leopard kitten print right in the outfit. Another very common symbol of the Illuminati, the beta sex slaves, okay? This goes back to the CIA and MK Ultra, the mind control programming, where they control these people and control their consciousness. These people have altars created inside of them, and they're programmed to be handled by the elites. And that's what all these celebrities are. This goes back to Monarch programming and beta kitten programming. And we even see Doja Cat show up. And of course, I've covered Doja Cat in detail. Some of my best videos on Doja Cat are available on the website. You can't even make up some of the stuff Doja Cat has done out in the open. But remember, Doja Cat came out as a supporter of Trump. So of course, everybody out there who's a Trump supporter accepts Doja Cat despite all the wicked Satanism that Doja Cat displays. And you can even see that Doja Cat has the monarch butterfly right on Doja Cat's chest on the outfit, deliberately, strategically being worn. And then, of course, I have to point out, because when we talk about the Met Gala, right, they talk about celebrities, talk about relevancy, who's there. Colin Kaepernick, once again, is being rolled out. We haven't seen Colin in a while. Colin is a washed-up football player who was horrible. For anybody out there that watches football, he was awful, okay? He was awful. He made it to one Super Bowl where they had a ritual at halftime that happened to be 33 minutes of blackout. Right after that, Colin Kaepernick had the police show up at his home because a woman who was there with him claimed that there was a satanic ritual taking place. And ever since then, all we've heard of Colin Kaepernick is racial division, right? Colin Kaepernick taking the knee, supposedly getting blacklisted from the NFL, which would never, ever be the case. In fact, some of these owners would go out of their way probably to sign him just so they could look like, hey, we're not racist. We love everybody of every color, right? Because that's obviously how this world works, right? These people always have to project. But no, nobody signed him, and nobody mentioned it was probably because he sucks. They needed him not to get signed. He had to be martyred. And of course, if you didn't see my videos recently about Him, the movie Him that's coming out, Greatness Demands Sacrifice, it's very similar to, well, Colin Kaepernick. Believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything. And the plot of the movie isn't about working out at the gym longer than everybody else. The plot of the movie is about human sacrifice, right? So Colin Kaepernick just, randomly happens to be there. He's not a government asset or anything. They invited him because he took a knee for the national anthem 10 years ago and somehow has relevancy now and was brought there. Well, he did create or take the ultimate sacrifice. Well, you can only imagine what he did behind the scenes, but that's the only reason that Colin Kaepernick is there, because these are all government operatives who are there. Now, the other thing to note at these events is there's always somebody who has some ridiculous costume on, which tells us it's a humiliation ritual that's taking place, right? You might remember when John Cena went out on stage in the Oscars naked, or even people like Jaden Smith showing up at an award show wearing a dollhouse on his head, and nobody out there says, yeah, this is, why would you be doing this? These are humiliation rituals, which are big in Freemasonry. A lot of the times, this is done if you haven't done something or lived up to your expectations in the secret society or the club. You owe something. Maybe you did something that you shouldn't have done. Maybe you told somebody some secret you shouldn't have told them. Well, then they get Shia LaBeouf, right? They get sent out on the red carpet wearing paper bags over their heads, or some of the other ridiculous things that we've seen them do. Britney Spears shaving its head, right? Well, here we get Andre 3000. And I mean, if this isn't a humiliation ritual, then he should just be humiliated in general. Here he is on the red carpet wearing a piano on his back, right? Holding garbage bags in one of his hands, right? And we've seen Andre 3000 do the 666 symbolism over his eyes. Of course, is he playing peekaboo as well. Now, Andre 3000, I'm sure 99.9% of you don't know who he is, but he was in a band called Outkast a long time ago and is pretty irrelevant at this point. So they rolled Andre out. He obviously didn't pay his membership dues and was told, hey, wear a grand piano on your back. And we're all celebrities, so nobody will think it's weird or strange at all. But this is a gigantic ritual. And then, of course, you just get some of the clown show that shows up that I guess didn't get the memo that it was Freemason night, out in the open at least on the red carpet. You get this clown. Then you get, I don't know what this is, but Cole Escola, folks. Cole Escola. This guy's getting an invite with some of the richest, wealthiest people who attend here, talking about the Jeff Bezoses as well of the world. I don't know what look he was trying to pull off. I guess Eddie Munster. I'm not quite sure. But obviously the entire production that they put on at the Met Gala is so cringe that really it can make you nauseous, or it can make you Simone Biles kind of project out of your mouth, right? Looking at some of these ghouls that show up at this event, and then, of course, wants you to take pictures and worship them, and don't expect you to understand who they believe we are to them, which is Goyim, and who they are on earth, which is to be worshiped. But here's the sad reality for these people. Their fame and their fortune is dying off. Maybe not their fortune as much as their fame, but these people care more about fame than fortune. They live to be worshiped. And when you look at the red carpet, and I think about 10 years ago when I was covering this, and you got Beyoncé's and Jay-Z's and Jared Leto, even bigger celebrity. Jared Leto is not really a celebrity, let's be real. But, the big celebrities, the Brad Pitts, those types on the red carpet. Now you got people who you couldn't identify. I mean, people could literally tell you who the name of the person is, show you the person. You wouldn't have a clue what they're even famous for. So their fame is certainly dying off in the year 2025, but they're not hiding what this was. This was a Freemasonic ritual, as it always is. But here the theme is more so, hey, we're going to do this out in the open. We're going to wear our top hats. We're going to bring our canes for Tubal Cain. We're all going to wear black and white. And nobody out there is going to notice that we're even wearing eye patches on the red carpet because we're desensitizing everybody to who we are. Well, you're only famous because you're in the club. Nobody really likes any of these people anyway. So it's a sad reality that most of these so-called celebrities exist in. And that was the Met Gala for the year 2025, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, Jared Leto did not attend, so I couldn't roast him in this video. But you've seen the themes here. It's very obvious. You can't, these are the types of things that you can't really debate. Right? Because there's always debates. Oh, is this a false flag? Was that a sign? And then you look at the footage and some people say this is fake or this is real. When it comes to signs and symbols and color schemes and how they dress and all this stuff, you can't debate that this wasn't a Freemasonic theme. If you go through the pictures, the 200 plus pictures of everyone who was there, 90% plus are wearing black and white colors. So they're all wearing black and white colors. They're wearing top hats. They're bringing their canes, okay? And the big thing that people don't understand is Freemasonry, the secret society, they worship Lucifer. All of these people worship Lucifer. And then they live off of hoping and doing everything that they can, every sacrifice they can make so that you worship them. But thankfully, that's starting to wear and fade, just like the career of most of these actual celebrities. So the Met Gala 2025, while it might not have been as openly obvious as somebody like Nicki Minaj dressing as the whore of Babylon, you can see how clear it is that these people are performing rituals right in front of your faces. And this was nothing more than a gigantic Freemasonic ritual, as they all always are. And they're not hiding it anymore. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.